video, we discuss your role as an advisory council member for one of Kentucky's Family Resource and Youth Services Centers. We'll start with a brief overview of the purpose of the Advisory Council, followed by a discussion of key considerations for building an advisory council and member responsibilities. By way of brief review, all FRYSC decisions are predicated on consideration of the mission, which is to enhance students' abilities to transition into school, succeed in school, and transition to adult life. The focus is on non-academic barriers that impede student success, and the intent is to build relationships with students, families, and communities, recognize issues that hinder success, and seek to remediate these through brokerage of services. When the Kentucky General Assembly created the FRYSCs as an integral part of the Kentucky Education Reform Act, KERA, of 1990, advisory councils were seen as important in assuring community ownership and continuous improvement. In sum, the FRYSC vision, as dictated by the Kentucky Division of Family Resource and Youth Services Centers, is to sustain the national standard of excellence in the provision of school-based family support through continuous quality improvement. With this vision in mind, the mission of the FRYSCs is to enhance students' abilities to succeed in school by developing and sustaining partnerships that promote early learning and successful transition into school for all Kentucky children, academic achievement and well-being across all levels of school, and graduation and transition into adult life, including work life. In this video, we'll cover 5 keys to effective advisory councils, including the makeup of the advisory council, the logic and steps involved in continuous quality improvement, advisory council responsibilities, the development of council bylaws, and best practices for sustaining a successful council. To start, let's talk about the makeup of the advisory council. Assuring that a wide range of people and perspectives are connected to the center ensures that its strategies continue to be responsive. Different stakeholders bring varied expertise, connections, resources, information, and perspectives to the table, all qualities that support long-term sustainability. Those diverse voices and experiences ensure that the Advisory Council understands the important needs rather than merely guessing priorities of students and families. Diversity in this sense likely involves people that school and district leaders may not already hear from. First, community-based partners may include representatives from faith-based organizations, local government, business owners, and social service organizations. Second, schools working in meaningful partnership with parents have better learning outcomes for students. A diverse group of caregivers should be included on the Advisory Council, representing the community's diversity. Where appropriate, this may also involve students. Specifically, students at the middle and high school levels are generally able to provide input and perspectives that are both relevant and helpful. Third, school staff are an integral part of the Advisory Council. Think beyond only including classroom teachers. Office personnel, janitors, and nutrition services can be beneficial partners. At the heart of these considerations is the avoidance of dysfunctional council dynamics. The Advisory Council Toolkit describes what the council should not look like and cautions against the following. A council that simply rubber stamps decisions made by the coordinator or principal is unhelpful. The team's role is to co-create strategies that address the center's highest needs alongside school and FRYSC leadership. A council that uses the process to advance a particular agenda. It's important to ensure that all Advisory Council members' experiences and perspectives are honored and valued. Council members that simply receive reports but are not actively involved in discussion and implementation. The Advisory Council must take an active role in center planning and implementation. important to ensure that advisory council membership includes new voices, including people you and other school and district leaders may not already hear from. Councils that do not meet regularly and are not up to date. It's important for advisory councils to hold regular meetings and maintain consistent effort to achieve their objectives. As reviewed in the FRYSC Advisory Council Membership Ratio Guide, there must be at least 6 council members, with at least 1/3 being parents or guardians, as long as they have no working relationship with the district in any capacity. Further, there can be no more than 1/3 school representatives, with the remaining members being from the community or student representatives.
Our advisory council is made up of a mix of all of the partners that are involved in meeting our students' needs. So we have student representatives, whose voices I would say are the most important. They're the ones that can tell us how things are working and what they need more of and what they need less of. We have family representatives, parent representatives for the similar purpose. We have staff representatives, and then we have representatives from some of our community partners.
We make sure we keep our ears to the ground. We make sure we know what our neighbors, our friends, our associates are in need of. We make sure that we are more or less boots on the ground in making sure the service is available and the resources are attainable.
I would say that the coordinator isn't choosing people that aren't stakeholders in this school. Generally, either they are part of a business that's here locally, part of an organization that they use as a resource, or as in myself, I am just like a community member at large, and I've lived here all my life. I worked here in the school for 25 years, and now I'm retired. So I have a lot of feelings in regards to this school and this community.
I think we just added another student, so I think we have 3 students who sit on it, which is really exciting. I think sometimes I forget how much the school relies on the FRYSC program, and so I think that having that advisory council to come together and really go over her main priorities, her day-to-day things that she is doing with that program is really awesome to see and hear, and it's a good reminder of how much our needs are being met for the school through FRYSC.
One of the most essential tasks of the Advisory Council is to engage in an ongoing process of assessing needs, identifying strengths and resources, and creative strategies that address any gaps in service delivery. This process is known as continuous quality improvement and begins with a needs assessment, followed by a review of data and making database decisions to promote continuous quality improvement. The key is to ensure that the Advisory Council focuses on achieving meaningful improvement in the continuous quality improvement process. To support this, the Family Resource and Youth Services Centers have adopted the standards of quality for family strengthening and support. The implementation of the standards will provide a guidepost for quality practice and create common language and expectations that can be used as a blueprint for implementing best practices. Family-centeredness means that the approach values families and recognizes them as integral to the program. Family strengthening means that the Council utilizes a family strengthening approach to support families to be strong, healthy, and safe, thereby promoting their success and optimal development. Community strengthening means that the Council works collaboratively with stakeholders to support families' civic engagement, leadership development, and ability to effect systems change. And evaluation means that the Council looks at areas of program strength, as well as areas for further development in order to guide continuous quality improvement and achieve positive results for families.
We have the opportunity to give feedback as we hear from our coordinator. We give some feedback on the different programs that are being offered to our students, and it gives an opportunity for feedback back and forth, a sounding board of parents and community members and staff, and an opportunity for us to hear what the needs are and maybe even give some insight into things that we see might be opportunities to be able to better serve our students as well.
Standards is just making sure that we are providing the best center for our families. So making sure that we're we're touching on those topics such as, you know, concrete support in times of need and things such as that. How I do it with the advisory council, I have a spreadsheet and I have every activity that we do all year long, and I align that with the standard, and that's how I cover it with my council to make sure that we are hitting every standard that we need to do.
So you identify the needs, you build your program, you assess you build a budget to support the program, you assess the success of the program you built to get more needs identified, and that is just sort of a constant loop, and all of those things sort of lead into the next step of that process.
For example, one of it is like the family outreach and engaging in families outside of the school day. And so we talk about, hey, we have this family night coming up, why don't you come be present at that? Or hey, this is the date for our open house in the fall. Why don't you guys be present at that? And so it's kind of helping her say, here's my standard of quality, here's where I want to be. Okay, let's get you there.
The process of continuous quality improvement involves a range of tasks that are further described next. Continuous quality improvement is a large task comprised of smaller tasks such as conducting needs assessments, analyzing evaluation data, and reviewing budgets and systems. Let's dig into some of these additional responsibilities here. The needs assessment process is an important part of continuous quality improvement. It is completed to gather information pertinent to the FRYSC goals, to assess the degree to which practices and processes are in place and affecting positive change. There is no standardized needs assessment tool. However, sample tools and forms are available on the FRYSC website. Assessing the strengths and needs of students, parents or caregivers, school, and the community needn't be difficult and time-consuming. There are many sources of data readily available. Best practices regarding the needs assessment process can be found on the Division of FRYSC website. The coordinator will be helpful in providing this information from a variety of local and statewide data sources. However, soliciting information directly from stakeholders is essential. It is recommended that advisory councils consider surveys for community partners and participate in larger community-based conversations as well. Of course, when using individual surveys, centers must respect the confidentiality of students and families to ensure that sensitive data is protected. Information from the needs assessment is used to inform decisions related to addressing the action component. Additionally, the council should regularly review data trends associated with your school and community and make program plan amendments accordingly. As part of ongoing quality improvement, the Advisory Council should review data for each strategy outlined in the plan. There are 3 key types of data to examine: participation data, perception data, and outcome data. Each type of data helps to answer specific questions. Participation data answers the question, how much did we do? For example, 19 fifth graders signed up for tutoring, 12 families attended Cradle School, or 26 students registered at the Big Smiles Dental Clinic. Perception data answers the question, how well did we do it? Examples include 17 of the fifth graders reported enjoying tutoring. Surveys show 9 families learned a new skill at Cradle School, or 22 students received treatment for cavities at Big Smiles Dental Clinic. Outcome data answers the question, is anyone better off? For example, 16 fifth graders in tutoring improved their MAP scores by at least 15 points. 8 preschoolers at Cradle School scored Ready for Kindergarten on the Brugance test. Or 120 school hours were saved by bringing Big Smiles Dental Clinic to the school. While not all strategies will have data available in each of these categories, every strategy should have at least one type of data. This data should inform discussions on how the center can maximize its impact with the chosen programming. Some of the most important decisions coming from the needs assessment involve the budget. The council is responsible for reviewing the budget and making amendments as deemed necessary based on data. On a more regular basis, the council should receive information on budget expenditures and balance at each meeting. This will be necessary information for the biannual development of the continuation program plan. Information included in the full document includes the continuation cover sheet with eligibility for free and reduced school meals, budget information in narrative form, core and optional action components, center information, and assurances from the Advisory Council, SBDM, and school district. This document, once approved, is incorporated into the contract with the school district. The Advisory Council has a shared role in the hiring of new FRYSC coordinators and recommendation of new council members. The Advisory Council Toolkit provides a set of recruiting tips for consideration when looking to bring in new members. A significant factor in effective recruiting is the Council's ability to advertise, to get the word out across stakeholder groups. But it is also influenced by members' ability to reach out to interested persons and actively recruit participation.
I think our needs assessment is largely survey-based. So Ms. Church sends out a survey to the students and the parents and the school staff to identify where those needs are, and then that is used to help build the programming sort of map, for lack of a better word, for the coming years. And I think in my experience on nonprofit boards in general, sort of reflecting back to that best practices question, I think that's part of a continuous improvement process.
And through recruitment is, we talk about people that we view would be a great asset. Sometimes that might be a grandparent who has a child, and that's a unique parenting situation if you're trying to raise a grandchild. And this would be a person who would be great on the council because they would give that viewpoint that would be different than others, or a person in the community who as a stakeholder would have a vested interest in giving their viewpoint. And so we talk about those kind of folks as we try to do recruitment as well.
In general, everybody gets this survey at the beginning of the year, and it basically, for the first part of it is just telling us about your family. How is your family made up? Are you a single parent household? Do you have step parents? Are you grandparents or whatever? And then the rest of the center, the rest of the needs assessment, the next part of it usually asks what are some needs of your family? Do you feel like your family could use parent classes? What types of things you would be interested in? Would you be interested in attending family nights? Would you be interested in getting your GED? Would you be interested in learning, some parenting skills, some different parenting skills? And then the next part of it is generally, what are some needs that your family has? What things does your family struggle with? Do they struggle with clothing, food, medical bills, different things like that? So that you're checking all of those things off. And in the end, it's like, what are some special needs that your family has? And a lot of parents will fill out, oh, my child has ADHD, we have a seizure disorder in our family, one of the parents is an alcoholic, or things like that. So they have an opportunity to do that. And then you just take all that data and it gives you kind of a guideline of maybe some programs of how the programs that your family resource may want to offer to some of the families.
We always, listen to the rationale behind everything, and we vote because we know that at the end of the day, it's going to be something that's going to help the students in the long run.
I love data. And so she does a big statistics sheet that says we served this many students. We did this many one-on-one interventions. We served this many students with backpack foods, all of those things. And it's like, wow, look at all the things that we did for kids. And it always goes back to that, kids and families, like serving them in any way that we can.
Each FRYSC Advisory Council is required to create its own bylaws. Councils should be wary of making their bylaws too restrictive and therefore limiting their ability to function. The division encourages councils to consider their decision-making strategies such as formal voting or consensus. This allows the council the latitude to operate in a flexible manner. Further, it is advisable for bylaws to include the manner in which new members are selected. This ensures that the process can be monitored efficiently by the council. Other suggested ideas include term limits for members or officers, committee usage, and meeting format. The FRYSC Advisory Council Bylaws Review Checklist found in the Advisory Council Toolkit provides both a list of required decisions with a list of best practice ideas for each. This checklist provides a comprehensive set of considerations, including naming, purpose, membership decisions, meeting protocol, budget rules, member roles, and processes for amendments. These guidelines ensure that all council members are aware of what is expected of them as members. It is also suggested that the bylaws be revisited at least biannually to ensure that new members are fully aware of their contents and that any required changes can be addressed. Roles within the Advisory Council should, at a minimum, include a chair, a person that ensures the meeting runs efficiently while keeping the discussion focused and on track, a secretary, the person who maintains meeting minutes and manages the official records, and a timekeeper, a person responsible for tracking time to ensure that each agenda item and speaker adheres to a predetermined time limit.
That's not, I don't think, the best and highest use of our time is messing with things like bylaws. So in general, we don't take them up except for annually to just review them and make sure that everything's still where it needs to be.
As a council member, I do know that that our coordinator is making sure that anything that we're covering, like the things that we are covering, the things that we talk about, are meeting the guidelines of our bylaws. But I do know that the bylaws are a very good guideline for putting barriers into place. I don't want to say barriers, for putting a roadmap of where we can go. Just from my previous experience of being a family resource employee, a lot of times you're asked to do things that fall outside, and it's nice to be able to have those bylaws as a guideline of these are the things that I can do and these are the things that I can't do.
Remember that a council is meant to be collaborative. True collaboration requires all members to be present, engaged during discussions, and active outside of meetings. While many of the best practices have already been mentioned, here is a simple summary of considerations for maximizing center effectiveness. Know your purpose and role as an advisory council member. Ensure scheduled meetings are on your calendar. Value and respect everyone's time. Use your strengths to benefit the council. Be respectful of everyone's voice during the meetings. Attend trainings when available, and work closely with your FRYSC coordinator. As noted, collaboration requires presence, engagement, and action. Council members must agree to both attendance and commitment as a part of their basic role, and in addition to more specific roles, such as chair or recorder. One suggested activity to promote continuous engagement is the scheduling of summer meetings for the specific purpose of celebrating success and maintaining a focus on the mission. Finally, effective communication should be considered not just as a part of the meetings, but as an ongoing set of activities meant to engage all stakeholders. Councils should consider how they communicate through activities such as open houses, weekly flyers, and social media.
When I think of best practices, I think of just sort of standardized best practices for any sort of advisory board or governance board, and things like regularly scheduled meetings, having a set agenda, or at least an agenda template, having open and transparent communications. I know that Ms. Church is very organized on her end in order to facilitate that for the advisory council. So she has a binder for all the different programming, a binder for budgeting. So when we have questions, she's able to very easily access that information and be able to answer our questions.
I feel like best practices and standard of quality are two very similar, what do I want to say, things. And I think that they kind of go hand in hand with each other. And so I think that that it's good to have those. It's a good way to kind of look back at the things that your center is doing, pick apart those things, like very specific things, and say, you know, how are we doing things that strengthen our families? How are we doing things that support our families? How are we being diverse in those things? And just to kind of have a quality control in regards to what you're doing all together.
We go over those every time, especially when the new program is coming up. And just trying to make sure that it's something that the students or the parents are going to get something out of.
Always looking for ways that we can do things better. There are times when there's a program that's working really well for a period of time, and then we look at it and we recognize, you know, maybe that's not what's needed now. And so we help to kind of, with our coordinator, be able to bounce back and forth and say, okay, what's a better way to do that now? You know, how do our students, you know, need to be served in this time? And so we'll make changes and make suggestions, and our coordinator is very receptive to that, and I believe that's a great back and forth that we have of supporting one another, and also as a group coming up with ways to improve our services to the students.
In summary, the FRYSC vision is to sustain the national standard of excellence in the provision of school-based family support, with a mission of enhancing students' abilities to succeed in school. We've covered ideas for creating effective advisory councils, including the following keys. First, it's important to build representative councils that include community members, parents, school staff, and sometimes students. Second, continuous quality improvement involves evaluation of program strengths as well as areas for further development to achieve positive results for families. Third, advisory councils must develop a comprehensive needs assessment focused on participation, perception, and outcome data. Fourth, the council must develop its own bylaws to guide processes and procedures. And fifth, a successful council puts emphasis on true collaboration through presence, engagement, and